Okay, so I'll start by introducing myself for those who don't know me. I've been working with Citrix technologies for roughly 16 years now, starting out as a contractor rolling out Metaframe XP to NHS hospitals around the UK. And I moved through the whole Citrix product line from Metaframe to Presentation Server to XenApp to XenDesktop since then. I also specialise in Citrix's other products such as NetScaler, XenMobile, Provisioning Services and XenServer, as well as other technologies from VMware, Microsoft, AppSense, Ericom and NetApp, just to mention a few. I've been working for Axess Systems now for 5 years, and it has given me lots of exposure to all these products. Anyhow, as Eve has already discussed, we're here to chat about Citrix Workspace Environment Management, which I believe will be a big product for Citrix, and that everyone who is entitled to use Citrix Workspace Environment Management, those with Enterprise and Platinum licensing and the Select Agreement, should be using it, as it will vastly improve the user experience of our XenApp and XenDesktop environments. So what I'm going to do now is give a presentation on the features of Citrix Workspace Environment Management, which will last around 20 minutes. Then I will provide demonstrations to give an overview of the features of the product. At the end, the presentation part will be sent out to all attendees. You'll be invited to have a more in-depth discussion with me about how to deploy Citrix Workspace Environment Management. So keep an eye out for that coming in your inbox. So on we go. Citrix Workspace Environment Management is a newly acquired product from Citrix. The product has been around since 2012 and is made by a French company called NorScale and marketed as NorScale Virtual User Environment Management, or NorScale VUEM for short. Citrix acquired NorScale in September 2016 and released it as Citrix Workspace Environment Management. NorScale VUEM has been a very popular product and has been deployed to hundreds of thousands of users worldwide. I've done a considerable amount of work with AppSense Desktop now during Citrix implementations, and from using Workspace Environment Management since it was released, I can tell you that there are a lot of similarities between the two products. As well as businesses try, the user experience of a desktop user seems to be a poor one. I often visit businesses where user login times are 60 seconds plus. In some environments, I've seen 300 second plus login times, which tends to come with the tagline, "We usually tell our users to go and make a drink whilst they log in." Piling up group policies and group policy preferences with scripts, map drives, registry settings, shortcuts and printers, for example, all help to cause these slow login times. And as such, it gives users something to moan about whilst making their cup of tea. And as such, this negative feedback spreads around the business. Another reason for the poor user experience is due to slow applications and their responsiveness. On a XenApp server or virtual desktop, the system processes are given a higher priority than the user applications. So when the system processes are maxing out the processor, there is a slowdown in the performance of the user's applications, sometimes to a point where they cannot work. Citrix Workspace Environment Management can overcome all these issues for you. Login times can be reduced down to 10 to 30 seconds, and ideally 10 to 20 seconds with the Citrix community suggesting that 5-second logins are actually achievable. This is all done by caching the settings that would normally be in group policy and group policy preferences on the XenApp server or virtual desktop. This allows the settings to be applied to the user directly at logon, rather than being delivered from a domain controller over the network. As well as much shorter logon times, there is also an option to use fast logoff. Enabling fast logoff logs the user off their desktop session instantly and runs all the logoff processes in the background, so the user doesn't have to wait around for everything to shut down. Intelligent processor optimization reprioritizes the user application processes. This gives them a higher priority than the processes that are causing the high processor usage, thus allowing users to use their applications as though they're the only ones using them, and in the case of XenApp, it's like they are the only user on the XenApp server. Reduced login times, much faster and responsive applications all provide a better user experience and will give users a good reason to talk more positively about their experience. So what are the advantages for businesses that would like to implement Citrix Workspace Environment Management? For the use of CPU, I/O and memory optimization, this allows up to 70% server consolidation and scaling. The savings in CPU, I/O and memory allow you to increase the density of users on your XenApp servers. So you will get a high number of XenApp servers per hypervisor host, and the same will apply for desktop virtualization too. You will get more virtual desktops on a hypervisor host. Citrix Workspace Environment Management also allows you to deploy XenApp and XenDesktop on hardware that isn't high-end, so savings can be made this way too. Hardware will also last longer as the levels of processor, memory and I/O usage will be reduced, and there will be more than likely power savings. There is an instant return on investment too for you. Users will not lose work time waiting around to log on for applications to open or waiting for them to come back to life after they are frozen. Another area to focus on is the extra security protection Citrix Workspace Environment Management offers. Process whitelisting allows only approved processes to run, so malware and ransomware will not be able to execute and propagate. Whitelisting, used in combination with redirected folders where antivirus scanning is enabled, eliminates the need to have antivirus protection installed on the XenApp servers and virtual desktops. This will also lead to an improvement in performance, as resource is not required for the antivirus products. We'll now take a look at the Citrix Workspace Environment Management architecture and see how it all fits together. The Citrix Workspace Environment Management Infrastructure Services. The WEM broker shown is the infrastructure services broker that is installed on a Windows server. It synchronizes with back-end components, SQL Server and Active Directory, with the front-end components, Administration Console and an agent host. The Citrix Workspace Environment Management Administration Console, shown here as the WEM Admin Console. This is the administration console that is installed on a Windows client or on a server operating system. It connects to the Citrix Workspace Environment Management Infrastructure Services. You use the administration console to manage your Citrix Workspace Environment Management installation, to create and assign resources, manage policies, authorize users. The Citrix Workspace Environment Management Agent host, shown here is a Citrix XenDesktop virtual desktops and XenApp servers with users on them. The agent host can either be deployed on VDAs or on physical Windows devices. It can be installed on a Windows client to manage client environments, or on a Windows server to manage server environments, or to manage published desktops and applications. It connects to the Citrix Workspace Environment Management Infrastructure Services and is responsible for enforcing the settings you configure with the administration console. A SQL Server database is required. Citrix Workspace Environment Management requires a SQL Server database to store its settings, and as you probably expect, a Microsoft Active Directory server, as Citrix Workspace Environment Management requires access to your Active Directory to push the settings to your users. I'll now cover off the resource management side of Citrix Workspace Environment Management. This will go over the CPU, I/O and memory optimizations we touched upon earlier. CPU and I/O optimization in Citrix Workspace Environment Management intelligently monitors all CPU and I/O resource and allocates it as required. This allows users to run processes without lag or delay, providing a great user experience. Processes can be assigned a higher priority, so that if at certain periods, for example, at the end of a financial year, you could assign a higher CPU and I/O priority to Microsoft Excel, as that is required by the finance team to work with large spreadsheets. CPU clamping and affinity can also be set on processes, but I would not recommend this as you're not allowing the application to work as it would expect to work, and it may cause problems. This graph shows how CPU and I/O optimization works in a scenario where Citrix Workspace Environment Management isn't installed. As you can see, the system processes such as antivirus, updates and OS activity are prioritized above user applications, and as such the applications take longer to open and have slower performance as they are not prioritized. This leads to a poor user experience which makes users unhappy. When Citrix Workspace Environment Management is installed and configured on the XenApp servers and virtual desktops, the entire process looks completely different. Now the user applications get priority over the system processes that are running, and the user has applications that are quick to open, don't freeze or hang, and they can work without any kind of performance impact. The intelligent reprioritization doesn't affect the system processes running like antivirus. It's just queues and takes place when the processor usage is reduced. With memory optimization in Citrix Workspace Environment Management, all applications that are minimized and idle will have a portion of the memory they are not using reclaimed, which will go back to the system. When applications become active again, they do not use as much memory as before and only use what they need. This allows less memory to be assigned to your XenApp servers and virtual desktops, so more XenApp servers and virtual desktops can be placed onto a hypervisor. Idle timeout periods can be set. The minimum idle time can be set as 5 minutes. The idle processor level limit can also be set. I found that with browser applications like Chrome, Firefox and Internet Explorer, that this should be set to 5%, as live check-in and news ticker updates in websites keep the websites active even though they are idle. This graph represents a scenario I found when I opened Internet Explorer and browsed 5 different websites in 5 separate tabs. At launch, the websites running in Internet Explorer used 330 megabytes of memory. I minimized Internet Explorer and left it for 5 minutes. When I came back to the server, the amount of memory being used by Internet Explorer had reduced down to 180 megabytes, so it had saved 150 megabytes. After this period of inactivity, I started using Internet Explorer again and browsed the websites, but only 220 megabytes of memory was used. So there was still a saving of 110 megabytes of memory. So from the values I got from my testing, for 30 users on a typical XenApp 7.x server, there will be a saving of 4.5 gigabytes of memory. If I had 10 XenApp servers on a hypervisor host accommodating 300 users, typically with 2 10-core processors and 256 gig of RAM in it, I could reduce the XenApp servers down to 20 gig of memory, and this would allow me to add an additional 2 XenApp servers to the hypervisor host, which would be the equivalent of another 60 users. So if my company had 5 hypervisor hosts, and one day my boss came to me as an IT administrator and said, "We've just acquired such and such a company, and they have 250 to 300 users. How many more hypervisor hosts are we going to need to purchase to accommodate them?" I could say to him, "None, as we were using Citrix Workspace Environment Management, and we currently have the capacity to fit them on our existing infrastructure." So I make the business a saving of £16,000 or $20,000 and make both myself and my boss look great to the business. We'll now look at the user settings management side of Workspace Environment Management. The user settings management side of Workspace Environment Management allows the following to be done. Significantly reduce login times by moving user settings from group policy and group policy preferences into the Citrix Workspace Environment Management policy. One caveat is that ADMs and ADMXs, such as those from Microsoft Office, can't be imported like with Axess Environment Manager, but you can convert the settings to registry entries and have them in the policy in this way. Citrix User Profile Management, folder redirection, and user environment settings, which would all be configured using group policies in Citrix environments, can all be configured in Citrix Workspace Environment Management. A user profile cleanup tool has been added for newly added file and folder exclusions that have been added to the Citrix User Profile Management. This could potentially save gigabytes of storage. Applications and printers can also be added, and users even allowed to choose the applications they want. When choosing their applications, users can set the location of them. For example, they can have the application shortcuts placed on the desktop, taskbar or start menu. And with printers, they can choose their own default printer if you require them to. The fast log-off option means that users just log off and leave their endpoint. All log-off processes take place in the background, so no more waiting around for their endpoint to shut down. Filters can be used too. So say you have a finance department who run an application that contains sensitive data, and due to this restriction, they can only run it on the LAN, so you cannot give them remote access. Well, now you can. You can assign the application to the user, then use a filter, so that if the IP address of the endpoint the user is logging in from is not on the LAN, the application will be filtered out and is not presented to the user whilst they are working remotely. We'll now look at the login process and see how it's been made faster with Citrix Workspace Environment Management. In an environment with no Citrix Workspace Environment Management and just group policy is used during login to apply settings, you will have the session initialization policy start first. Then the user profile management process starts, loading the user profile, which overlaps with the session initialization process. Group policy and group policy preferences processing then towards the end of the user profile process before it's fully loaded. And while this takes place, the login scripts, network drives and printers all load, which in total gives your users a long delayed logon process, which could run into minutes depending on how much is being processed. Now with Citrix Workspace Environment Management, the whole process is much more streamlined, as the majority of group policy preferences, logon scripts, network drives and printers are all part of the process from the cache policy. This streamlined process allows a much reduced login time, and this is why 10 to 20 second login times are easily achievable. I'll now move on to process whitelisting and go through the benefits it provides. Process whitelisting allows you to make sure that only the verified processes you want to run are run. To determine the processes that are required, I would run a period of user testing and collect the processes that are run through auditing. I would then analyse the collected processes to make sure they are all business related and that there aren't any rogue processes in there. I'd also suggest running a couple of periods of user testing in case processes are missed during the first period of testing. Once you have your list of processes, just upload them into the whitelisting policy in Citrix Workspace Environment Management and apply it to your XenApp servers or virtual desktops. This is a great way to protect yourself from ransomware and malware attacks, and also to save on the cost and performance degradation of having antivirus protection on your XenApp servers or virtual desktops. I would advise though to have antivirus scanning enabled on the redirected folders. Also, set a file type association to stop JavaScript files from executing by associating it with Notepad, and set group policy restrictions for Microsoft Office macros. Ransomware and malware are big problems these days, and the average cost of an infection is estimated to be £75,000 or $90,000 by Information Security magazine. I'll now just give a quick overview of process blacklisting. Process blacklisting allows you to specify an application process, such as winword.exe, if you want to stop users from using Microsoft Word, and it will block that process from running when users log on. Blacklisting could be useful if you had an application for which you had a certain number of licenses, so you could lock it down in this way. The only drawback with doing this is that there is no individual process blacklisting option, so this would be difficult to implement for more than one application. My last section before the demo is on Citrix Workspace Environment Management Monitoring. So Citrix Workspace Environment Management allows you to analyse login times for users and compare them between sessions. It will also analyse the boot times of servers and virtual desktops. You can view daily and historical reports going back years. You can compare trends so that you can see if the login and boot times are increasing, and this allows you to do something about them. It also compares trends with operating systems, so you can see how many logins from each type of OS there have been. Okay, I'm now going to start the demo for you. During the demo, I'll be explaining how to set up profile management, folder redirection, and user environment settings, deploying applications, printers, network drives, and register keys to users that log on, processor optimization, memory optimization and reclamation, process blacklisting, process whitelisting, and we'll have a quick look at monitoring.
I'm now going to go through the process of configuring user profile management, folder redirection, and user environment settings in Citrix Workspace Environment Management. I have a session on a XenApp server here built with Windows Server 2016. This is just a build with Microsoft Office on and everything else as default, with the recycle bin on the desktop, running the start menu, and shut down and sign off in there as well. The basic Windows background is applied, and it has the Citrix Workspace Environment Management agent on there, but it has no policy configured as yet. So if we swap over to the Workspace Environment Management Administrator console, and we go into the Policies and Profiles section, I can now start to configure the environmental settings. If I enable Process Environmental Settings, Exclude Administrators is enabled, as we only want these settings to apply to our Citrix users, I can now set options for the start menu that would normally be configured in group policy. There's a whole host of options in here, such as hide common programs, remove run from the start menu, hide administrative tools, hide help, hide find, plus many, many more, as shown. For my configuration, I'm just going to select the remove run from the start menu, hide administrative tools, force log off button, and hide turn off computer. I'm then going to set the appearance settings. I'll set my theme and style to use the arrow settings, and I'll set the wallpaper to use an Axess Systems background and set it to fit in place. So I'll just copy that in there now. Just change that one to fit. And then I'll go to the desktop settings, and I can now set the desktop options. So I'm going to select the option to hide the recycle bin, as that was on the desktop. And now I'm going to move into the Windows Explorer settings, which you'd normally set in group policy settings. Okay. So in here, I'm going to prevent access to the command prompt. You've also got the option to prevent access to the registry editing tools and many more options in here. The other thing I'm going to do is hide specified drives in Explorer. So for this I'll hide the drives A, B, C and D. Just click OK. And now I can go change my control panel settings. And I'm just going to show certain control panel applets. I'm going to enable display, devices and printers, and the ease of access center as well. So I'll just add the ease of access center in now. Now all these settings are in place. I just click on the apply button. It tells me in the bottom right hand corner that the settings have been applied successfully. If you forget to click on the apply button and you move to your next section, all those settings will be lost and you have to enter them again and apply them again. As you can see, mine are saved and they're still in place. So I'm going to move on to Microsoft USB settings. So in the Microsoft USB settings, I'm going to enable process user state virtualization configuration and exclude the administrators again. I'll go to the folder redirection 1 of 2 tab, and in here I can set redirection for the desktop, documents, pictures, music and videos. I'll enable all of these and enter my redirected folder paths into each one apart from pictures, music and videos, which will follow the documents folder. So I'll just enter those in now. Okay, now that's done, I'll move on to the folder redirection 2 of 2 tabs. And in here I can set the folder redirection for the start menu, favorites, app data, contacts, downloads, links, searches. So I'll enable them all. I'll just enter my redirected folder paths into each one. Okay, so now they're all in place, I can just go and click on the apply button, and now it's applied my settings. I've got the successful messages. Just make sure they're in place again. Yeah. And now we can move on to the Citrix User Profile Management set. Okay, so I'll set the option to enable Citrix UPM Settings Management and enable Profile Management. I'll then set process groups to add my Citrix Users group in. Okay, and I can then set the user store path. Okay, and once that's done, I can enable active write back as well, and then move on to profile handling. So I'll set it to delete locally cached profiles after 30 seconds. Then enable migration of both local and roaming profiles, and then if there is a profile conflict, I'll set it to delete the local profile. Okay, and then in log settings, I'll enable log settings, and then I'll select all options so we've got the verbose logging in place. I'll also set the maximum log file size and just leave that as default, and then I'll set a path to the log file, which will just be C logs file, or logs folder, sorry, on the XenApp server. And you can enable registry exclusions or inclusions. I haven't got anything to add in there at the moment. I'm going to enable file and folder exclusions, so they're both in place. It also apply default ones for XP in 2003 and 2008, and Windows 7 and 2008 R2. There's a handy little tool in here for profile cleansing, so if you add any new file exclusions or folder exclusions, this will scan the user profiles and it will remove the file or folder exclusions that you've added in, so it can create a fair bit of space for you. Okay, so the synchronization settings, we're going to enable directory synchronization, file mirroring, and folder mirroring as well. There's nothing to add in here at the moment. And finally, I'm just going to enable profile streaming. Once that's done, just click apply again, and they've applied successfully. Yeah, all the settings are still in place. And now I can go push out these settings to my XenApp server now. I'm just going to do these for the actual agent. I'll just log off and then log back in as a user. Okay, if I now log back into my desktop, so as you can see, you can already see the Axess Systems backgrounds applied. The recycle bin has already gone from the desktop as well. Run will not run as we've disabled that. Now if we're going to look at what drives we've got, we can see that our drives A, B, C and D are missing because we should be able to see the CD-ROM drive and the C drive on there. The redirected folders are working, so the downloads is pointing in the right direction, and yeah, the documents folder has also been redirected. Just try and run command.exe now, so I'll create a shortcut onto the desktop. Yeah, as you can see, that's been disabled by the policy, and everything's now in place for what we've applied. I'm now going to go through the process of using WEM to deploy applications, printers, network drives and registry keys. Okay, so I'll just minimize the desktop. Right, so what I'm going to do in the applications side of thing, I'm going to add a notepad in there. I've added my current users in, so my Citrix users group is added in already. If we go back to the actions tab, we've got applications section here. I'll just click on the add button. I'm going to add in notepad here, so just add notepad. I just need to browse to the location of notepad, which is in C Windows. Okay, so it's found notepad. Let's click OK, and that's added in there. I'll add a printer in. I've got a Samsung 480 printer here, so I'll just add that in. Set to network printer. Okay, okay there. Just going to add a network drive in. This will be my tech manuals drive. that yet. Finally, just add the registry entry key in there. Okay, so once you've created these in the Actions section, you have to go to Assignments, and we have my Citrix users group there. So if I just click on the clear button, it brings you up a list of what's available. So you can see our Notepad applications available, the printers available, the tech manuals, network drive is available, and the registry entries are available as well. So all I do is click on Notepad, just click OK there. It now appears in the assigned section under applications. Now I'm going to have it create me a desktop shortcut. Also have the shortcut pinned onto the start menu and also pinned onto the taskbar as well. I'll select my printer, move that over. So that's now in the list under printers, and I'm going to set it to be my default printer as well. Move the network drive over now. I'll give that the letter T for tech manuals, and that's assigned the letter T. And I'll add in my registry entry. That's added there too as well. And all I need to do now is just push this out to my setup server. Okay, so as you can see, the Notepad shortcut's been placed on the desktop. There's also one on the taskbar, and should be one, yeah, there we are on this pin to start menu. So they're all there correctly, and it's all opening and working. Type into that. Let's just check devices with printers now. Yep, device and printers. So my Samsung C480FW printer's there, and it's in as the default printer as well, so that's gone in nicely. Let's see if the tech manuals drive is here. Yeah, T drive's been mapped, and yeah, I've got access to my manuals. And the final thing was the serialize registry key, so I put shortcut in for regedit. So it was in HKey user software, Microsoft, Windows, current version, Explorer. It should have created one called serialize key. There we go. Yep. Let's put the start delay in milliseconds to 0. That's excellent. So as you can see, our applications, printers, network drives, and registry settings have all applied successfully. I'm now going to show you how CPU optimization works in Workspace Environment Manager. As you can see at the moment, I've currently got virtually 2% utilization on processor, down to 1% now. I'm going to use CPU stress test to max out the processor, so it'll go right up to 100%. And what I'm going to do is turn CPU optimization on in Workspace Environment Manager. Okay, so in the console, if we go to System Optimization, we have CPU Management. Just going to tick the box here to enable CPU spikes protection. And I'm just going to click Apply. I'll just push out these settings to our setup server. Okay, we go back onto here now, so we've still only got a couple of % processor being used. So what I'm going to do now is make all these threads active on each core. And as you see, processor value is going up to 100%. Just give it a few seconds and let it get right up there so it's constant. And what I'm going to do is start to open some of these PDF files and Excel files, Word files and PowerPoint files, and you should see that they're still open, just like there's no load on the processor. Just let that build up a sec. It's getting quite high. Okay, so it's at 99% in the 90s now, so I'll start opening these PDF files. So as you see, this is a 11 meg PDF file, and as you see, it's like lightning to browse through, even with the CPU maxed out at 100%. So I'll just open the one. This one's a 5 meg one, so we'll have that one as well. Opens in full screen. I can browse through it, no problem at all. Okay, come out of that one. Let's open Excel now. This is a 7 meg Excel file. Lots of fields in there. Just do that box there. Able to easily scroll through there, even though the CPU is still maxed out. Oops, wrong one. Yeah, still at 100%, so it's still easy to browse through there. If I go and copy a few rows, copy a lot. Okay, so I've copied a couple of thousand rows there, so if I copy them, enter them into another sheet, copy them straight away, no problem, no delay, no lag or anything there. So this Microsoft Word document, it's a big document here, it's 5 meg in size, still got an 100% CPU. Scroll right down to the bottom of the document. So it's 859 pages long. Once again, I'll just select a load of pages. Okay, I'll copy that. Create a new document. There we go, it's pasted in there. So it's pasted in 43 pages of text into there. The CPU is still at 100%, and I've got all these applications open, and I can still browse through them. So WEM's doing a really good job with the CPU there. Makes you users are able to work as though there's no load at all on the server. This is all done by prioritizing the workload on there. The next demonstration I'm going to show you is on memory optimization. What I'm going to do here is open Internet Explorer and then open a few tabs and run different websites with quite a lot of content in them. This will then push up the amount of memory that's being used by Internet Explorer, and then I'm going to minimize Internet Explorer, and we should be able to reclaim that memory back to the system. Okay, so if I go into the WEM Administration Console, go back to the System Optimization, into the Memory Management section, and I'm going to enable the Working Set option. I'm going to change the idle sample time down to 5 minutes. I'm going to change the idle state limit percent down to 5% as well. So once that application's been idle 5 minutes and the idle state's under 5%, it should start to reclaim the memory back. So let just apply that now. And push out to my Zen-App server. Okay, so it's refreshing those settings now. Okay, so I've opened Internet Explorer. So we've got the Internet Explorer process come up now. The range is a bit better. So currently it's just got MSN as a home page, which has got a lot of content in there, it's moving all the time, and that's currently using about 112 meg. So I'll open 4 more websites. I'll open the rest of the BBC. Go to Sky Sports. Yahoo. Final one, we'll go to DSPN. So they're all pretty rich in content. So if we just leave those running a bit, we should be able to see what kind of memory usage we're getting. So yeah, we've got using around about 160, 260, about 420 there, 430 meg. I'll just take a snippet tool, take a snip of that. I'll just keep that snip there. So I'm currently using about 420 meg there. So what I'm going to do now is minimize this. And I'll just pause this video now, we'll wait 5 minutes and come back and then we'll see how much memory's been reclaimed. Okay, so we've now had 5 minutes. And as you can see, the Internet Explorer processes have significantly reduced the amount of memory being used. I calculate it's probably been around 200 megabytes of memory being used compared to 435 before. So I'll just take another snip of this. Okay, I'll paste that into my document here. Okay. So we go back now. Yeah. So we've saved over 230 meg. That's a 50% saving in memory alone there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to maximize Internet Explorer again, and then leave about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and see how much memory it's using again. See how much it goes back to. Okay, so even after 5 minutes of running of Internet Explorer again, Internet Explorer seems to be using around about 300 meg, so it's still saving around about 135 meg compared to when it was originally opened. So I've got that here. So when we first opened it, there was 435 meg in use. When minimized, we were only using 194 megabytes of RAM, so we were saving 245 meg of RAM, which was reclaimed by the system. And once we started using it again, it went down to 300 meg of RAM. So we're still saving 135 megabytes of RAM, which are great savings, and will just allow you to scale out your systems really well. I'm now going to show you how to blacklist the process. So if we go into the Workspace Environment Management console, we go to Systems Optimisation, and there's a Process Management section here, so we enable Process Management. We've got 2 tabs, one for Processes Blacklist and one for Processes Whitelist. This demonstration is going to show Process Blacklisting. If I click on the Processes Blacklist and I enable Processes Blacklist here, I'm going to add a PowerPoint executable. So if I enter powerpnt.exe and add that to the list. Now, if you want some users to be excluded from this policy, just tick the Exclude Specified Groups box and the group into the box, and this group will be excluded from the blacklist and will be able to access PowerPoint. The same can be done for local administrators as well. Okay, so now we've got PowerPoint added in there. I'm going to go and push Policy Optimizer App Server. Okay, so that's pushed out the settings for me. We'll head over to Zen App Session now. So on the desktop, I've still got my documents there. I should still be able to open Word. Yes, that's opening fine. If I try to open my PowerPoint now, as you can see, it gives me the restrictions warning message. This operation has been cancelled due to restrictions in effect on this computer. Please contact your systems administrator. So the blacklisting is doing its job there. The blacklisting function is quite interesting. It could be used for licensing, but the only thing I can think of as a downside to that is that you can't do individual process blacklisting. It has to be one group of blacklisted processes, which is still quite a handy feature to be able to use. I'm now going to run through process whitelisting and how I believe that process whitelisting can help you in protecting against ransomware and malware attacks. Okay, so I've got my desktop here. On the desktop, I've pasted two files. I've got a malware file and a ransomware file. The ransomware file is a JavaScript file. Malware's that file that contains the ICAR test virus. So as you can see at the moment, if I click on them, they actually would have run. And the malware one, that runs as well. The ICAR test will propagate. I've got no antivirus in place on there at the moment. It's all disabled. So what we're going to do is put whitelisting in place to block these potential attacks from happening. So if we go into Workspace Environment Manager console, go to System Optimisation, Process Management. Process Management's enabled from when we did the blacklisting before. I've disabled blacklisting on there, and now we can do process whitelisting. So what we can do is enable process whitelist here. So what we're going to do there is tick that box, and for the moment I'm just going to add one process in there. I'm just going to put command.exe in. Otherwise I'd have to enter every individual process manually for what is it is on the Windows Server 2016 app server. So just do it like that. So I've got the one process there and apply that. I'll just push that out to the server first. Oh, refresh it. Okay, so if we go back to System Optimisation now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to export the whitelisting settings. So all the System Optimisation settings, I'm just going to export them from the Workspace Environment Manager. So I just take the System Optimisation box, then browse, and I'll just locate this somewhere, put it in my documents. Okay, and then if I go to my documents folder, yeah, I've got this WEM system utility settings here. So I can open that up in Notepad++ now. I need to make it more viewable, so I need to install the XML plugin, so I'll just do that. Okay, so I've installed my XML plugin, and I'm now able to view my XML file in a better format rather than just one single line of text. Okay, so I need to find that command.exe process. Just do Control F. .exe. Okay, so I found it in the list. So what I've already done, I've already got all the processes that are running on my 2016 server. The way I've done this was I enabled process auditing on here and then collected the logs, the security log from when UAT testing was taking place. And then I exported all those processes and then put them into a semicolon separated format like this. So all I need to do then is just copy all these processes. I can just replace the command.exe there, paste them in. And I'll just save the file. Okay, close Notepad now, don't do that anymore. And all I have to do now is import this settings file back in, and it should populate my whitelist processes. So if I import settings, click next, browse to my file. Just do system optimization settings, which found the file in there. Import settings, yeah, I'll have it replace all the settings. Click finish, and now, as you can see, it's populated all those processes into the whitelisting box. So now I can apply this push it out to my Zen app server. Okay, and if we go back to the Zen app session, okay, so it's pushed those out now. So if I try to open the malware, because remember last time it ran, it should block it this time. Yep, as you can see, the operation has been cancelled due to restrictions in place. And the ransomware one, that shouldn't propagate either. Okay, so that's fine, that's not propagated. And I believe it should still have my Word documents. Yeah, they can all open. PDFs. Yeah, so it's not affected. I've whitelisted all these processes, Word and PowerPoint and PDF and Adobe Reader and so on, so they're all fine. I can still open them. I think CPU stress, I don't think that's in my list, so that should be blocked when I open it, I think. Yeah, that's blocked. Yeah, so it works nicely, blocking the applications and malware from opening. So it's really good protection in case you do have a malware attack, because from testing I've done, it's blocked the process before the antiviruses have picked it up. I was doing one implementation with Axess in early November 2016, and the application whitelisting I was using with Application Manager was picking up the virus before Sophos detected it. I think it took Sophos about 10 seconds before it detected the virus on there, which was really good. And it made me think, oh, I've seen WEM and I noticed that that's got process whitelisting in, so wouldn't that be a great feature to use? So these kind of things, malware and ransomware attacks, these are so prevalent in the environment and so on. And looking at what these attacks cost, I think a malware or ransomware attack, they reckon the lasting effect of it is 30 odd days, and the cost for that is around about £2,500 per day to $3,000 or $3,000 per day. So over 30 days, you're looking at a cost of £75,000 or $90,000. So it's a lot of money, and so the savings and the return on investment on WEM is remarkable. Another thing you can put in place to stop ransomware attacks is a lot of them come through email in JavaScript files, like the one that's on the desktop. But you can also put in place a file type association. So you can also set up a JavaScript file type association, and instead of having it run with JavaScript, you could set it to run with Notepad. So in the event that someone did click on a link in an email, it would open Notepad and wouldn't be able to propagate. So you can set it to open there, and then we can set Notepad. And just put any text in there. Click OK. So that's now in place. So we just go to our assignments again. Go there, and assign this to our Citrix users, JavaScript file type association. Okay, so that's there then. So just update my agent again. Go back on here. Now I've opened this ransomware now. It should open with Notepad instead. Yeah, so it tries to open Notepad, so it will not propagate if someone does accidentally click on a JavaScript file in an email. The final demo I'm going to give you is just a quick overview of monitoring. So we're in the Workspace Environment Management console. You've got the monitoring section, and there's 3 sections under it. For daily reports, user trends, and user device reports, there's also configuration settings where you can set report options. If I go to daily reports and I click on refresh reports, I can now see users who've been logging in today. This shows that 2/3 of logins have been between 0 to 10 seconds, and that 1/3 were between 10 to 20 seconds. You also have the daily boot report that shows how long it took for the Zen app server to boot up. This shows 0 to 20 seconds for those boot times. If I move on to user trends, this can show trends across all sites, or you can see trends in a specific site. So here I will select my Zen app 2016 servers. This shows, like before, that 2/3 2/3 of the logins have been between 0 and 10 seconds, and that 1/3 were between 10 and 20 seconds. The boot trends report shows that the XenApp servers have been rebooted 6 times, and for all boots it took between 0 to 20 seconds. You can also do reports by device type too. This shows the Windows 7 desktop I have and the XenApp 2016 server that I am also using. So it shows the different types of devices that are in use and their different OSs. Then, in the User and Device Report section, you can choose individual users such as my test user and test user 2. Here it shows the login times for test user, which was 10 seconds in this case. Looking at test user 2, this shows a slightly faster login time of 8.25 seconds. These reports will give you a lot of information, and you can compare login times on different days, and this allows you to troubleshoot if there are any discrepancies. Finally, you have device report. This lets you look at the duration of the boot time, which you can compare when more data is available. For my XenApp 2016 server, the boot time was just 16 seconds. So basically, that is everything there is to monitoring.
Okay, so really sort of the next steps. If you've got any questions that have been raised or you've been thinking about during the webinar today, if you want to sort of use your panel now and send some through, I can see already that we've got some already. So thank you, Donald. So first question, can you allocate printers according to workstation location?
Yes, you should be able to allocate printers based on the subnet ID that they're on, and also you can also allocate them against endpoints as well. So if a certain endpoint moves around and stuff, they can get different printers and so on.
Okay, so next question we've got is from Anthony. So Anthony says, would have been good to see the bad performance. Would have been good to see how the bad performance was prior to enabling CPU management. Good point, Anthony. What we'll do is we will record that for you and we'll put it up on YouTube, so you've got a before and after. So no, it is really impressive to see the difference, so we'll record that and send it through. Okay, Francisco, I see that, so I hope that helps, Anthony. Francisco, I see that WEM is free for enterprise or platinum customers with active software maintenance. Is it supported for XenApp 6.5 with advanced subscription, or can it be purchased?
I don't believe so. It's only with enterprise and platinum products.
Okay.
So I don't think you can get it if you've got advanced subscription.
Right, we'll check that one out further, Francisco. We'll just clarify that. And so we'll take that one back offline. Okay, next question is coming from Richard. So is WEM part of the XenApp XenDesktop licensing model, or is it a standalone product?
No, you only get it with enterprise and platinum license and having a select agreement. So yeah, I don't think you can buy it standalone anymore. You used to be able to, but not anymore. I don't believe you can.
Okay, so again, we'll just clarify that one again back to you, Richard. So just go to the questions coming in thick and fast. Can I still use this in conjunction with FS Logic's profile containers?
Yes, I can't see any reason why not. You can use it with app disks, and I believe it's going to be used with Unidesk as well in the future. So yeah, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be able to be used with SS Logic profile containers.
Okay. So yeah, apparently there is an upgrade path from advanced to enterprise. So just sent that feedback for Francisco. Next question coming in thick and fast. How do you filter on application based on users being on off-site using Netscaler?
You can set like a no IP filter on there. So so you can have a filter on there which is your LAN. So if anything else came from an IP address that wasn't on your LAN, it would you could set the filter so it would deliver or not deliver the applications.
Right, okay, so thank you, Adam, for that question. Next question we've got is from Richard. Why would you use WEM over GPO, GPP for some of these feature overlaps?
Well, if you do GPO and GPP, that's got to come across the network, and it all slows down. So you've got the whole process of session initialization, the profile load, and then your policies loading. Whereas with WEM, it's actually cached on the actual ZApp server, so it hasn't got to go across the network and get these policies and wait for them to load. It's there, and then you log on, it's loaded straight away. And this is why you can get such fast login times, like sub 20 seconds. It's really good.
Is it one of the user groups is working towards a 5-second logon? Is that?
Yes, one of the guys in the Citrix community, he's targeting a 5-second login time. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope that answers that one, Richard. Next question we've got is from Harple. Does whitelisting only look for the process name, or can it look at location and other file metadata?
It seems to only look for process name. Yeah, there isn't any other options in there. It's just process name.
Okay. So thank you, Harple, for that question. Questions still coming in. Right. Yeah. Can you import existing policies? That's a question from Dave.
You can't actually import ADMXs and ADM files, but what you can do is you can convert those ADM and ADMXs and the parts of that you're using into registry settings, and then you can load the registry settings in there and have them apply to the user.
Can WEM be used to lock down an application to a specific endpoint device? That's from Ashley.
Yeah, I believe you could do. Yes, I believe you could add a filter and allow that to happen. Yeah, I can't see any reason why you couldn't do that.
Thank you very much for interacting today. It's been really excellent. So many thanks, and I'll be sending those things out soon.